Probing the Bigfoot Sasquatch mystery coast to coast and continent to continent. It's the Bigfoot Field Guide radio show, presented by the Mid-America Bigfoot Research Center. Over the next hour, we'll discuss sightings, behavioral characteristics, useful equipment, and all that is Bigfoot. Pull up a chair and join the conversation. The Bigfoot Field Guide radio show is on the air.
Okay, folks, welcome. This is our first real go for a Bigfoot Field Guide podcast. Joining me is Randy Rebelistic Savig. He is the MABRC Missouri State Director, and I am DW Darkwing Lee, the Executive Director of the MABRC. We're going to start doing this show, and from time to time we'll have Big Jim Whitehead with us. He is the Oklahoma State Director of the MABRC. Hopefully the format for this show will be to everybody's liking. Want to say hi to Randy, and thanks for being a co-host here, Randy.
Hey, thanks. It's my pleasure.
So one of the things that we talked about before starting the let me back up here. One of the things we talked about maybe doing was talking about the Project Silent Hills that we did. And we got a little presentation to kind of go along with it. So as we talk, we can kind of refer back to some of the stuff in it. So let me get the screen shared up here. There's our presentation. This was actually a project that the Arkansas Primate Evidence Society actually joined us in helping us do over here in Arkansas. And I really want to say that it was an eye-opening experience, and I'm sure Randy will say the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, but one of the things, let's kind of just go on here. Special recognition. Now, this really goes out because Randy and his, I don't want to say Bernie is your sidekick, but your sidekick, Bernie, y'all originally discovered some of the background information that you brought to us that really got this project off the ground. So you want to kind of explain what happened there?
Well, yeah. I mean, the whole situation with what we did to find out what we were thinking was wrong, and that I brought it to everybody else, was, again, we've always heard that these knocks are a long ways away. Well, we also found out that if you just pick up a piece of stick in the woods and decide you're going to smack a tree, it's not going to make a sound because what's on the ground is pretty rotted. So what we decided to do would be pick up an old hickory axe handle. And for some reason in my brain, I thought that the sound was coming from the tree. So we got at a location where there was 3 different kinds of tree. There was a cedar, an oak, and then a pine of some sort. So what we did is we decided we would see which tree made the best sound. Well, we were doing that at camp, and again, we were noticing, hey, no big deal. We decided to quit for the evening, and nothing happened all night long. So then before we went, I had set up another audio recorder as the crow flies, probably between a half and 3/4 of a mile away from us. So what we decided to do was I do one of my howls because, again, I enjoy doing those, and they once in a while will have some effect. And then I hit 3 times on each one of the trees. 3 on the oak, 3 on the cedar, and 3 on the pine. And I thought, well, now on a distance, we can see which one sounds the better, so we could possibly use that tree down the road. This was at a place that we call Lightning Ridge, which is a big food plot that on this property, and we thought we'd do it there because that's a common place that we go and set up for night listening ops and all that. During my audio review, the howls came out real well, but I couldn't hear any of the knocks at all. They were like they disappeared from the recording, but again, everything else was there. So that's when I brought it up to the group that, hey, I think that we found that knocks are not a very far away. In fact, they're probably a whole lot closer than what you thought. And that was the beginning of the Project Silent Hills.
Yeah, I remember when you called me and we started discussing it, it was like, we really need to get the group together and really do it in a way that we could record the evidence and,
the decibel readers that you picked up for it and all that. Yep.
So kind of go here to the, and what I'll do, folks, is I will post the link to this on the Squatchopedia website for this slideshow, so you can go and check it out with the video. But here's basically the introduction that we just talked about, and the participants that was there. Of course, it was you, Randy, me. We had Goose there, Compressor Mike, Squatch Finder, and Sawdust, and then Robert Swain, Laugh Squatch from the Apes. We all went.
He brought his call blaster that we could use as the howls and make sure the decibels would stay the same. Because as much as I can say, I got a loud big mouth when I do my howls, it's seldom that you can really do two of them with the same decibels. So you needed something solid where we could set it at whatever decibel it was and know that every time we played it, it would be the same.
Yeah, that was a big thing that we looked at, because we was also looking at the same thing for the wood knocks. They wouldn't really be consistent, but we put Mike doing them, and he tried to hit it at the same whack hardness every time.
Yep. So we didn't go from Mike hitting it once to Goose hitting it to once, and then me hitting it once. Whoever was on the knocker for the first round we did was the same person on it. And we really expressed the thought of using the same tree, same location, and same swing to the knock.
Yeah. And of course, the location that we was at that we did this, it was, I would say, maybe 3/4 of a mile of an old dirt road out in the middle of the Ozark National Forest.
Yep.
So we didn't have really any cars coming down through there. It was pretty secluded. So it was, we was able to see, each team was able to see each other down that road. So, of course, switch over to the experiment here. This is what we was talking about. A set of patterns of sounds was decided upon. We did a oak tree, a cedar tree. Then we did the red percussion block, the green percussion block. Did a human vocalization, in which I think it was you that did your whoop.
Yep.
And then, of course, the call blaster. So, and then, of course, it says in all instances, the listening team would listen from the road, and it was line of sight to the team creating the sounds. And then we'd step off into the woods in order to see if the audio became distorted from the vegetation. So we took into account, the vegetation. We actually did 3 distinct distances. That's where we had a rangefinder with us. We'll go here. You can see the decibel meters are right here. We're going to look at some of the equipment that we used. Here we used a hickory axe handle for the wood knock, and like you were saying earlier, it wasn't really the type of tree. It was whatever you used to hit the tree with that made the sound unique.
Yes. And not
So,
only that, but throughout the time now, I've realized by Bernie using it, me using it, and when we were out with Big Jim on his Western expedition, I don't remember, Thumperville, I think he called it.
yeah.
We had 3 people. We redid the Silent Hills project there. And we could actually tell when Jim had it, when Dave had it, or when Mason had it. That was something that, again, not trying to take away from this project because it's very important, but that to me, the different hand sizes, the different grips used, the different speeds, each one of them was a different tone.
Yeah. Kind of makes you wonder, just based on that, uh, could it be distinctive to the Bigfoot? Hearing a distinct sound that they can associate with, well, that's red over here, or that's whitey or blacky, whatever
And
that.
I've come to the spot where I'm really, really leaning that way, Darren. I mean, it's one of those situations. That same axe handle is still in the back seat of my truck or under the back seat. We were able to get knock-knock games with the troop we've got up here. Now, even though all the troops probably do the same things, they may not do the same things for the same reason. Down in your area, when the 4-wheelers would come by, the last big Memorial Day expedition, you sent me the knocks.
Yeah.
Where you could hear the 4-wheelers, there'd be a certain knocks. After the 4-wheelers left, there was knocks. That's basically what I've recorded down in your area. I've recorded where, how do I want to put it? They seem to be using that as a warning call. Where in my location, they do it whether there's people out there or not. I have come to the realization that they're using it as a location call. I've gotten that in the middle of the night in the woods when nobody's out there. And one time I set up 3 different recorders. And those 3 recorders were spaced by quite a ways. You could hear it faint at recorder 1, stronger, stronger, lighter, lighter, gone. Second one, soft, louder, loudest, softer, gone. And then it did it to the third one. And when I'd take out all the dead airspace, so I've got knock, 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 knock. You could definitely tell 2, if not 3 different tones of knocks that were consistent each time, to where I'm at the point where I do believe they can understand whose is whose. In fact, our knock-knock games that we used to institute with ours, because again, I believe, in fact, I can almost prove it in my situation, that they locate each other with it. And that's how we could have success in the knock-knock games. But then when they'd knock, we'd knock, and it would all go quiet. Like they learned the tone of our knocking stick. There was one time, it was last summer, between jobs on the rigs, we went and we did another knocking game, but we happened to take out a longer walking stick size oak piece that was solid. We got replies from that more than what we got from our knocking stick.
Yeah.
As soon as I went back to our knocking stick, they quit replying.
Well, it makes me think now, that one time in the valley when you pulled that audio for me that had like a
Ye-
dozen knocks.
Yep, yep,
That happened after as we were leaving. Like you said earlier, the four wheelers, you could hear them leaving, and
yep.
then the wood knocks. And what was not great about this was it was from different locations. You could hear from the wood knocks, it was different locations. And it made me think when you said that area is really hot for four wheelers and
Yep.
UTVs and stuff. So I think they're using that for the all clear. So
Yeah, yeah. Again, all clear. But again, I don't recall the circumstance, and you might. Did we have the recorders set up before those knocks so that we could tell if they were knocking before we got there as well as after, or were we in the process of setting them up then? I don't recall.
we were in the process of setting them up, and that was the furthest one out. So when we set it up and we started to leave, I'm thinking it was the first wood knock you could just barely hear right after the last of the four wheeler noise subsided.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking, they were like, okay, they're going down the trail, knock to let everybody else know. And then everybody responded, or all the Bigfoot in the area responded.
Yeah.
And, but, yeah, you brought up a lot of interesting points about the tone of it, you know.
Well, again, that was one of those things that, and again, I'm not trying to brag or sound anything, but I've got over 4,000 hours of these headphones on listening to audio that we've collected. Not the
Yeah,
comparison audio, there's a lot more than that. And it amazed me that your troop down there, again, whether they knocked when we came in and then again afterwards, I haven't, we don't have enough data on that. But
yeah, because usually,
they definitely did the all clear, if you want to call it that, when we left.
yeah,
So my suspicion is that they had either a vocalization or knocks before we got there too when they first heard us.
yeah, truthfully, the only way I think we could, I'll have to go back and listen to that audio because, when we come back, I think the next day or 2 days later. It was before we come back, it was a couple of days, but I had to go back and listen to that because when we're on the four wheelers, unless the knock is real close, we don't hear that. We just hear the four wheelers.
That's correct. That's correct. And
So,
but again, from even listening to a member of ours, Don Stockton, Don.
yeah,
Anyway, his troop up there, that's what he said. It was a warning call because he had a certain area when they'd go into it, they'd hear a knock. When they came out, they'd hear two knocks. So I was thinking that was a warning type situation. What got me to start knocking back was the whole thing of when they mimicked me one time, it was game on. And then I started playing the mimic game. I've always let them take the first step
yeah,
with a vocalization, with a knock, and then give it back to them. If it's one knock, give them one knock. If it's two, give them two. And I've seemed to have some good results with that. But at your place, we could get responses with the whoops, but we never got responses with the knocks. Again, I'm just going by my limited data. I don't have all the audio you do. But if they are using that as a warning call, that would make sense. By us knocking, they're saying, "Uh-oh, they're here."
yeah, man, yeah, lots. I mean, lost to digest even just thinking about that.
Three and a half years chasing oil and having all the time in the world to think is done some stuff. Yes.
Well, that's one of the great things about when we do go on expeditions and we sit around the fire and we discuss this stuff. we're able to throw stuff out there like this, and sometimes it's like being hit with a 2x4. Wham! What the hell? That makes perfect sense.
Yep. And again, it's
I
so
kind of
easy
figured.
to
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Those dozen wood knocks. I figured that was the all clear, but now to think, well, are they doing it when we go back in there? So, man,
Why would they all clear if they didn't give some sort of warning?
yeah, man. Well, I'm gonna go on to
and again, I would be willing to bet that if you could find of audio where there's knocks as we come into the area and more going out,
yeah,
I would be willing to bet that the tones that we hear coming in will probably be duplicated tones on the way out. In other words, if there's 3 of them there, each one of them will have their own tone. Warning, got it,
yeah.
all clear, got it, type scenario with it.
And you was talking about Don when he would go in his area. I think Don was going in on foot.
Yes, he always did.
So he was able to hear more, Of course, I'll tell you right now, there ain't no way I'm walking up the high trail there in the valley to figure that out.
That's kind of where we're at, where I'm at now, and why I brought this up about these podcasts, because even though audio is probably the simplest thing,
yeah,
I'm not able to get out and do much like I used to. But again, I think that after the time the MABRC has had with expeditions and individual research, because we have not sat down and talked about it out of the woods where we're focused on everything else, I think we've got a lot more information than what we know, because I might have seen something that, it didn't make no difference to me, but if somebody else did see something more that could correlate, it would make a lot more sense and fill in some blanks that are out there. Let's put it that way.
To pause for just a second, Randy, is the sun shining out up there?
Yeah, it's coming right in my window. Am I getting too?
Okay.
Yeah,
it's whited out right there. That's why. Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure we didn't have a issue with our cameras or whatever.
No, the only technical problem we're having is I'm getting white and gray.
So, but I'm going to go to this next to kind of show everybody the decibel unit and the rangefinder. We actually had 2 of these decibel meters that we got, and people can get these off of Amazon if they want to go and try to redo our experiment. I think the decibel meters were like $20 a piece, and the laser rangefinder was like 80, I think. So, but also here's
look better.
Okay. So, and here's the call blasting unit that Robert Swain brought, and I mean, it's a killer little system. It was really nice to be able to use it. And then, of course, here's the percussion blocks. But one thing that I've learned since this is, instead of using a drumstick and the back end of the drumstick, go down to Walmart, get you about a 1-inch dowel rod, and use the dowel rod. It makes a heck of a world of difference.
Okay.
It actually echoes out there farther and farther. So when we go back and we got one more round of this project that I'd like to do concerning water. Soon as I get the engine worked on my houseboat or my pontoon boat, we'll take it out in the middle of a lake and have somebody on the shore do the wood knocks and the percussion blocks and the whoops and all that to see how far it carries across water. Now we'll go on to talk about phase 2 that we did. I don't think it's on part of this presentation, but what we learned on it was pretty impressive. So, of course, here's the sound level example chart. Rustling of leaves is 10 decibels. A jet going over is 80 decibels. So the baselines that we used were basically nobody would be making any racket. We take baselines of what the
ambient noise was.
Ambient noise. Thank you, sir. So we wrote all this down. You can see that, we really detailed it quite a bit. We even had Mike try to out whoop you, and he kind of did, but then he was like, well, if I'm doing the wood knocks, I ain't doing the whoops. So
hey, if I lose on a little bit like that, I don't worry about it. We all won, so that's what it was about.
Oh yeah. So the first time we did this, we was out at 405 feet, and we were able to hear it pretty well. I mean, it was pretty clear that we heard it. So then we went out to, whoops, I hit the wrong button. So then we went out to 657 feet, and there is a noticeable drop. And then when we got out to 933 feet, almost 1,000 feet, we couldn't hardly hear the wood knocks. The only reason we knew that the wood knock happened is because by line of sight, we could see him swing, and then you would pick up the wood knock. But if we hadn't seen him swing, we wouldn't even known that he did the wood knock.
That's
so that
again, if it would have been a typical person out in the forest, even myself, if I'm out there, especially by myself, I'm quiet, but I'm still thinking in my head. And as much as we think in our head, our ears don't hear a lot of the stuff. Doing audio collection, I thought I heard quite a little until I did the review.
Yeah.
When I did the review, I realized there was only about 60% of what I heard that night that was recorded. There was another percent over and above that. And it would have been visiting out there when we were that many yards out and talking. I've heard them even at the close distance, let alone it. So
yeah, it was just a real eye opener at that point, because then we realized, oh crap, for you to hear it real clear, it's got to be within 100, 200 feet of you. And
that's right, damn near in your back pocket.
Yeah. And of course, I remember that when we switched teams, so the team that was doing all the knocks and stuff could go down and listen. They had actually got down to about the 900 feet mark, and something off into the woods actually pushed a tree over. Now, I don't know if the tree fell over or whatever, but it could have been because we were making all this racket and it was pissing somebody off. But
and again, that's true. And again, those howls that Robert Swain was putting, if I'm recalling right, and again, I could be wrong, but that was recorded and was one of those that they assumed was an aggressive call.
Yeah, I was trying to go back and look. It was the Ohio howl.
Yes, and again, there's a lot of them that are saying that was more of an aggressive. I don't know if I can agree with that anymore. It was definitely a long call, but it was made for distance, which could have been a warning call with that troop or whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're goddamn, just say for speculation's sake, if that was I'm hurt, I'm in trouble, to have something come in and show some aggression or some distraction. I don't think it was aggression knocking over the tree. It was probably more of a distraction to get people's attention. It could have been trying to allow whatever was vocalizing a fear type thing to be able to get out, because now I've got their attention.
Now, explain what you mean by a long howl.
Okay, a long howl, a lot of people, and when I did too, when I first did it, a long call or long howl, whatever you want to call it, it is made on the distance it can be heard, not so much how long it lasts. Where a short call would be something that would only be heard a short distance. In the primate world, from when I was studying that here a couple of years back and wrote that article with it, it ends up being usually food or fear related for the long calls, where more or less discipline, contentment, that type of thing are the short calls. So when I say long call or long howl, I'm talking about a distance, not so much a longevity that goes along with it.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure everybody understood what you meant by that. But yeah, and then the next morning, I think it was you, me, Shirley, your wife, Cherokee Rose, my wife, and two other people, I think. We was going out to go check how much the water was up down at the local river, and there was a tree across the road right there where that tree had fell in the woods. Another one had been pushed down over the road.
Yep, on the opposite side of the road.
Yeah.
And even though we had some good rain that night, we didn't have a whole bunch of wind.
No, and there was a big old hill right there above. The wind couldn't really come down and get it. But
we had to go back and get the four-wheelers and move it away and just be able to get out of there.
And if I remember right, after we did the experiment on the first day and we got back to camp, we actually heard a wood knock across the little pond there by the campsite. And just based on what we just heard, everybody was like, man, that's got to be within 200 feet of us.
Yeah.
So, but here it kind of goes, and this diagram here kind of shows that, like we were saying, when we were almost 1,000 feet away, we couldn't hear the wood knock, just standing there not looking. But when we seen compressor Mike rear back and hit, then you kind of zoomed in and you could hear the wood knock just real faint. And that was kind of really a shock right there. Here it kind of shows the same thing. We barely heard it over the ambient noise. When it was at 657 feet, we only heard it because we were listening for it. We knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But then when we got out there to the 933, we were actually seeing him hit the tree, and then you could just barely hear the wood knock. And so
and again, I'm not disagreeing with the data, but were we expecting to hear it, or did we hear it? When it wouldn't show up on the decibel meter higher than the ambient, and we already primed ourselves at that 600 foot and the 300 foot or whatever it was to know when he swung, there was this noise. The first two were it would show up on the decibel meter as being just a smidge above ambient. And when
Yeah.
we got down to the other, if we would have turned our backs, I don't think I think we were expecting to hear them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think just the fact that we knew it was coming, our ears were trying to focus in on that knock.
Yeah.
But if we would have just been somebody out there in the woods walking around, anything, it might have just sounded like a twig snapping underneath our feet.
There you
And
go.
so, and just this next one is just an example of how long 300 feet is. It's one football field is 300 feet. So, we were almost 3 football fields away from at the 933 mark, I think it was.
Yeah.
And even when we stepped into the woods, stepped off the trail, there wasn't that much noticeable difference in the decibel readings either.
No, I was expecting it, and that definitely caught me by surprise.
So now here's a conclusion. Basically, we've already been talking about this, but if you hear a loud wood knock, it's within 200 feet of you. Used to, I would think, oh, I heard a wood knock off in the distance. That's a quarter mile away. And then when this happened, it's like, damn, they were a lot closer than I thought. And but one of the things that we did do was when we used the call blaster and the Ohio howl, it was heard up to over a mile away because we heard it back at base camp. And that's important to bring up because phase two actually changed on that. So I don't have phase 2 on this presentation, but you and me was both there for phase 2, so I think we can.
No, I missed phase 2, but again,
Oh, okay.
Let's say that when you guys put out the results, because I missed it, I did double check it with my own stuff here, and I totally agree with the outcome.
So hopefully everybody can see it. This is the road that we were using. And of course, here's the team. Now, what we did is we went back during wintertime. And I think we had most of the same crew there. I don't think Robert Swain was there with us, but he sent his call blasting system so we could use it. But the temperature was down in, I believe, about the 30s, the mid 30s. I'd have to go back and look at that information. But one thing that shocked us, you think, well, when it's cold, the sound would carry further, and there's no ambient noise, so it would carry further. But what we was shocked about, the sound only carried half as far. And that Ohio howl that we were call blasting, I actually went all the way back to camp to see if I could hear it. And when I got back there, they played it about 4 or 5 times, and I could not hear it. I had to come halfway back before I even heard it. So when it's colder, that's when they're a lot closer during, the cold weather. And that's why we want to try it over water because, how far does sound carry over water?
Or does the water absorb it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying.
So now here's the tree that got pushed over. I mean, it didn't actually come up by the roots. It was actually, if I remember right, it was shattered right there at the bottom.
Yep.
So, but this was just right there where they were at when the other tree crashed. Matter of fact, I think this picture right here, I can't tell if that's trying to remember who that was. That might be Robert Swain standing there beside Izzy looking on the four-wheeler.
I
And
think so.
I think that was where they were at when the tree crashed down off into the woods. So, and of course, there's the trees that we were whacking on for the experiment. But yeah, overall, though, I mean, everybody that went to either one of these phases, because we called it phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. The people that showed up for phase 2, a lot of them were like really freaking out about how close it was. And
Well, again, that was part of what we were dealing with on the Memorial Day expedition where we did phase 1. I was under the understanding that the foliage would block some of the sound.
Yeah.
So again, using that as a basis, again, I agree. And my thought was when you guys did phase 2 that it would be carry a lot further. The leaves aren't blocking it.
Yeah. And, ambient noise, there wasn't no ambient noise because all the crickets and frogs were not out.
Frozen. Yeah, they were frozen.
Yeah. But one of the things that it was just shocking because, like I said before, I'd hear a wood knock and I just guesstimated that, they're a quarter mile away,
well, again,
we'll just keep listening.
That I think was something that, we had all heard. And I had heard it when I got into research with y'all. And, one thing that this has done to evolve my research is, first of all, trust but verify. And I've done that in everything now, in my own recordings, the comparison recordings. I go out and look for verifiable to compare to. YouTube's not verifiable. Universities, research organizations that deal with your coyotes or wolves or bears, those people can have audio out there that's verifiable. And with this, I've seen it even in my own. When I hear a knock and it's close, especially if it's colder, we best be looking through the thermals.
Yeah.
Because without the leaves to distort the thermals, again, we used to think they were so far away when we'd hear them. Now we know they are a lot closer than we ever dreamt of. When we hear one, it's time to kick in some of the other equipment, if it's not, to do some scanning around us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that, and I'll give credit where credit is due. Randy Harrington come up with the thermal on a pole up to his tent. And we use that quite a bit. We'll put it up through the tent, or if we're just out there and I got my truck, I'll put it up in the back of the truck to where we can scan around the whole area. And so we do rely quite heavily on our thermals when we're sitting at camp, because the way we do it, and a lot of people may not understand this, we may have to do a show on some of our tactics. But when we're sitting at a campfire, we all face each other,
Yeah.
But we're not really watching the person right across from us. We're watching everything behind them. But to the Bigfoot, they're just all sitting there talking to each other and, facing each other. They'll never see us sneaking up. And we've had things happen where some has got pretty close to us, made a lot of noise and stuff like that. But
well, this same weekend with the Project Silent Hills was one that we were sitting around the campfire discussing it that night, doing just what you say. And I don't remember if it was you or somebody said behind me there was a noise and you took the thermal out, and I come walking past you. We had that one that would go back down the hill a ways, and I turned around and come back, and we had that heat signature that was going back and forth on that.
Yeah, I remember that because I'm not sure who it was, but we had somebody go out there and they found the ravine right there where it had popped up, and they went down in the ravine and we couldn't see their head.
That's exactly it. I don't remember who it was. I went up to the ravine, but I ain't going downhill at night.
Yeah, I think it was Compressor Mike that went down in there, but he's short to begin with, so.
Yeah, but if we lost them halfway down, the average man wouldn't be able to see.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was really interesting, all the stuff that happened after the experiment that night, because I think we really got their curiosity aroused because, what the hell is making all that ruckus? And, but yeah, I think, I really think that we need to do, and I'm bad on this because I haven't looked. I think we're up to phase 4 because I think we went back one time before that, but whatever phase it is, we'll post the results. We actually got the Project Silent Hills public page on Facebook if people want to go check the information out there. I'll go ahead and add that link too because we posted a lot of the data there. But yeah, it was just very mind-boggling how close they are to us when they do vocalizations and stuff.
Yeah, and again, when you start looking at the difference between summer and winter, it makes winter out there, even though I cannot take the cold anymore, I can do a fire dance all I want, and I won't be able to move with a damn for a couple weeks. But when you're out there in the winter, you've got to remember, if you're recording it or hearing it, it is a whole lot closer. And with that, you can stage your equipment differently because if you're hearing it, that's most likely some sort of travel corridor or something where you can add and figure out directions of travel and whatever with that. But in the wintertime especially, yes, leaves are off the trees, the frost is on the pumpkin. You start hearing things and they are close.
Sorry about that, Randy. I had to look. My camera is right in the way of some of the commands here, so.
No problem.
But yeah, it was just, I was really happy that we got to take part in that experiment. And I was so glad that you and Bernie brought it to us because I don't think anybody ever really tried to figure out how close wood knocks really were.
Yeah.
And
the different terrain, I'm sure, will give different results. I would love one of the groups in the Pacific Northwest be able to do the same type of experiment and see how the rock is echoing it and see if that would make a difference. Just because in the Ozarks it's only X far doesn't mean that it couldn't be different in some of these other areas. And like anything else, I mean, I've told people about audio. When you get your audio, test your equipment. I have walked 260 pounds, 6'4", walked 20-foot circle, then a 30-foot circle, 40-foot circle around my recorders. So I know if I'm hearing something, where they should be in relation to that recorder. And if we don't know what our equipment is capable of, we can think a bug on the doggone microphone is a Bigfoot playing with it.
Man, I didn't even think about doing that with the recorder.
Oh, yeah. I bet every one of them I get, even if it's the same Sony in a different microphone, to know the distances. I don't go out in the woods to do that. I just go wherever there's leaf litter in the ground that I'm going to be doing it. And
Yeah.
I'll do a 20-foot circle, 30-foot circle, a 40-foot circle. And again, I don't try to be quiet. I'm not trying to be sneaky, just walking like you should walk.
Yeah.
And then I can tell where I'm at and how far that microphone will pick up. That's part of why I got into parabolics. I was realizing that leaf litter movement and stuff, which can be very telling when it comes to doing this research, I wasn't able to project more than 45 foot in the woods. With a parabolic, I could go 75 into the woods. You know, that's part of the reason why I've kind of gotten away from the cheap Sonys and gone more with the Zooms, especially for a camp recorder.
Yeah.
Because with the powered microphones, that thing can reach out about 80 foot for my normal walk footfalls and be able to record them.
Man, yeah. Definitely a lot to think about here. Sorry, Randy. I'm trying to digest it all.
Well, again, that's part of why when we had our symposium, I brought this up. Because again, not that I'm no damned expert any more than anybody else, but I had 3.5 years helping my wife run the security that I had a whole bunch of time to think, and you know, trying to find out why, what, and how. Why was I able to hear but the same situation? Well, now it makes more sense with Silent Hills Project, phase 1 to phase 2. It all makes more sense. You know, and again, knowing what your equipment is capable of. You know, there's I've got both now, night vision and a thermal. I can see a reflection out of a night vision, these digital night visions, that again, the thermal won't show, but it shows an outline because of the leaf litter on not leaf litter, needle on cedars. We've done that experiment. Something could be in a cedar, behind a cedar tree 10 foot away, and you won't see it with the thermal.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
and again, that's all stuff. We've got to know our equipment to know our capabilities.
Yeah. Well, that's just like on the thermal. The thermal doesn't record audio. So what I've had to do is I've got a little DVR that records audio along with the video from the thermal. So I've got a super ear that goes on top of the thermal. So whenever I turn it, the super ear is listening and it's actually recording to the thermal footage, the audio in real time. Yep. And that way I can go back and hopefully if the Bigfoot's standing there huffing and puffing or whatever, maybe I'll pick it up and it'll be basically on the same timestamp as the thermal footage.
Yeah, and that's absolutely it. I mean, I think a big key to all this stuff is putting several different types of evidence together in a joint situation. I mean, when we've done the expeditions, you know, I've always had a camp recorder.
Yeah.
You know why? Because if you're talking about I think I see, and then we hear a huff and walking away, guess what? Apparently something got spotted.
Yeah.
And the same thing with if somebody's got just a regular picture thermal. Hey, I see it. I'm taking some pictures of it. It's already on the audio recorder too that we could see if we were able to hear it moving around and whatever.
Yeah.
So putting your
several layers of evidence.
Yeah, and putting your thermal together with that audio, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's killer. That can really make some differences.
Yeah, and usually when I'm on an expedition and you're there, I always I know Randy's got the camp recorder going. But when you're not there, I've had to put the camp recorder out. And, But yeah, having a camp recorder, that for me, that's just rule of thumb for any expedition. You need to have a recorder going, and then that way, if you got somebody that is trying to fake, like rocks being thrown or whatever, there's a good chance you're going to pick up the audio of them unzipping their tent and picking up
Yep.
rocks, throwing them at another tent. So,
Yep. And again, I can't believe any of us in the MABRC would do it, but again,
yeah,
it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yeah, but we also invite individuals that are not in the group with us.
Yeah.
And there's even the chance that people see that we're on an expedition out there, and they'll park down the road and sneak up and try to, scare us or whatever. Of course, most of the old timers in the group, I don't think anything scares them, because most of them they hear a vocalization close by and they're like, okay, well, when it gets closer, I'll get out of the tent, but right now I'm sleeping.
That's it. When it's close enough to grab it by the short hairs, we'll go out and get it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I know there's several claims, in Southeast Oklahoma where somebody has done that on paid expeditions, just to make people think that they are having activity on these.
Yeah, and again, people pay for results. They don't pay for a night in the woods.
Yeah.
And you gotta. I mean, there was some of that down in Texas, down in that one forest too, where they were charging people to come down, and then sat and said, "Well, we'll guarantee you'll at least hear them."
Yeah.
Well, if they're going to at least hear them, I can tell you there's a call blaster involved.
Yeah. Yeah, that does not surprise me one bit.
Well, it has to be, for the simple fact, how many hours could we go out and sit in the dang woods, and all we've had was a great night of visiting with good friends without a thing in the world happening? No vocalizations, no nothing.
Yeah, and even then, we always consider it a good expedition just because of the fellowship and sitting around the fire, and and then somebody will bring some new equipment and show it to everybody, and it's just
come up with a new idea of, let's try this.
So people think that every time we go out, we have something happen. And I could count one year where we had close to 12 expeditions and only something happened on one of them.
Yeah.
So,
again, Bigfoot does not just sit in one area waiting for humans to come up to play with.
Yeah. So, people that say that, oh, I got Bigfoot out my back door, and they go out and have interactions with them every day. That's just hard to believe, because Bigfoot does. When I say migrate, I don't talk about like migrating from 4 states away, but they do migrate in a general area.
Yep.
So,
just like every big predator does.
Yeah. They don't just stay in a little 20-acre area. They make a big path. And that's one of the things about my research area. We've got a power line right of way that connects them all. And I think what they do is they basically use that to guide them down to the next research area where they can hunt for a little while. Then they move to another one. Sometimes we'll go 6 months without having any activity, and then we just happen to be in the right spot at the right time where they're at, and then we have activity.
Yep.
So,
and again, they might stay in that area for 2-3 days, so you can get repeat if you can be in there. That's where, again, my opinion, my most successful audio has been. I didn't get them on the last day. I got them on the first through the 3 days or whatever it might have been that they were there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, you've got to be willing to review hours and hours and hours of nothing but wood sounds in order to get lucky enough for that one chunk.
And this is something that we tried doing it for a while on our expeditions where we'd have multiple camps, remote camps and stuff. But we quickly realized that Bigfoot, when you have that many remote camps, you have 3 or 4 camps, they're not going to take a chance and come up to any of those camps because they're so spread out and they don't know where everybody's at. It's better to have one camp and let the Bigfoot come to you. And this kind of goes back to what you're saying, 2 or 3 days they'll be in an area. You just got to sit there and wait. Either they're going to be coming through, you'll get their curiosity aroused and they'll come up to you, or come up and do things. But, we had a researcher in the past that he would move 4 or 5 times in the middle of the night because if he set up his camp and nothing happened within the first hour, he'd pack everything up and go move to another location. And that really is shooting yourself in the foot because the Bigfoot don't know where to expect you to pop up next,
That's
as long as you're, So as
and
long as
you were just talking about that power line right away.
Yeah.
And again, we saw that down in your area. And, one of the most active places we had down in Louisiana, when I came around that lease road and there was this big power line right away, the big transmission lines going through, it was like, yeah, this could be interesting. And by God, we were there for about 4.5 to 5 months, and it was. There was one time throughout that, or 2 times throughout that, where there was some interesting stuff involved there. And again, we weren't on the right of way or the power line right away, but we were within 100 foot of it. And again, IR sensors to let us know when trucks were coming.
Yeah.
We get things in the middle of the night. Well, some of them could have been deer, coyotes. Yes, they're all there too. But that one night that I talked about at the symposium, where I literally got scared into the camper, I heard that sensor go off, went outside, and everything had changed. Everything was quiet again. Nothing was feeling odd in the air. All I can stipulate is it was there. It wasn't liking people being there. And that ding, after I went in the camper, it had got done okay. I'm done with these and moved on, and I caught them on the way out.
Yeah, that's one thing. And just so everybody understands, when we say power line right-of-ways, we don't think the Bigfoot are walking down them like a highway. We think what they're doing is, quite possibly they're walking inside the tree line alongside it, but they're using it as a navigation tool. But, basically, my power line right away, most of the sightings happen within 2 to 3 miles of that power line right away. So that just tells me that, okay, they're staying close to that right away. They're using it as a navigation tool. So, but you've seen the power line right away that is in my research area.
You bet. And again, it was identical to the same style that was down there in Louisiana.
Well, down at Smith Park, down there at Falk. Yep. I think it's Smith Park. If you go down towards the gun range, just down the road there, they got that big pipeline right away.
Yep.
And you can look up through there and you see all these deer hunter stands. It's just a great place for animals to go back and forth. And it would not surprise me that if the Bigfoot are in the area, they're going to use that as a path to get back and forth.
Yeah,
so,
and again, not so much in our area here, but down in where I was at in DeSoto Parish, Louisiana, where this right-of-way was, I could take a brand new set of overalls, get off from the lease road, walk back 40 foot and come back another 4, come back to the camper again, and I'd probably be just about butt naked. Everything down there, sticks, thorns, yay long.
yeah.
If I were an animal, I try to stick to those doggone things as a walkway, just because, again, otherwise you're getting tore up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I can actually see your point in that, because you see a lot of deer. A lot of deer, they want to take the easiest route possible. They don't want to go through the underbrush and all that. Of course, unless you shoot one and it's trying to get away, it's going to go under the underbrush, and
in the bottom of the deepest holler it can find, behind 3 briar bushes and a goddamn thorn tree. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. But yeah, just the amount of wildlife that you can find on those right of ways. There's that big gas pipeline down there north of Honobi that goes right through K-Trail. You can get up there and there's a part of K-Trail where it crosses that you can stand there and you can look for miles either way. And it's just that little strip just cuts right through all the woods.
Yeah.
So, but, well, you got anything else you want to add tonight, or you think we got pretty well close to?
I think we got, everybody should have a good idea of what Silent Hills Project was. Could I sit here and talk about Bigfoot for the next 4 hours? Sure I could, but we got to shut it off somewhere.
Yeah. But what we'll do is we'll get with Big Jim, and if you're good with 6 o'clock Friday evenings,
I can definitely make that, put it on the calendar. I don't know why we couldn't.
Well, Big Jim, his brother was down there where them tornadoes were, and he's going to go over this evening to check with him.
Yep, and he needs to.
Yeah. And Sulphur, Oklahoma got hit so bad. It's right there at Chickasaw National Park, and I've been there several times with driver operator, and it when you look at the town, it sits right there to the Chickasaw Park. I mean, that's where the boundaries are, and for the damage that was sustained for that town with the tornadoes, I really pray for the people there, and hopefully they're able to rebuild, and the people that got killed, I know it's a big loss.
It is. And again, the pictures before and after, I mean, they were tragic and sad,
Yeah.
I mean, looking at the pictures, one death is too many from these damn storms, but I was surprised there weren't more.
Yeah.
Just by the looks of those pictures.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty devastating. So, but anyway, I want to thank everybody that'll be watching this video in the future. I want to say thanks to Randy for jumping in here with me with both feet. I think this is going to turn out real good as we get more familiar with the functionality and all that. And we'll just have to make sure the sun ain't shining on his beard in the future.
Yep, I got that shade. I got her figured out now.
Okay. I was like, I just didn't know what to figure there. I was like, well, I can see his mouth moving at least, but
yeah, no, I can take care of that one, by golly. I can take care of it. But
okay.
Like anything else, us goddamn Bigfoot researchers, we fly by the seat of our pants most of the time. And
yeah, we did.
In spite of ourselves, it turns out fairly decent.
So if you'll hang on after I get through the recording, we'll talk for a few more minutes. But I'm going to go ahead and play our ending and get us off here.
All right. Sounds like a winner.
You've been listening to the Bigfoot Field Guide radio show, presented by the Mid-America Bigfoot Research Center, where researchers think outside the box. Available for download on iTunes and from mid-americabigfoot.com. Thanks for listening. And remember, the next time you're in the woods alone, maybe you're not.